PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
It's Kim versus TC in the battle of the lists.
My list is better.
My list is better.
My list is better.
No, it's not. My list is better.
Kim or TC, who has the better list? From Subject Cinema, this is Front Row 5 and 10 with Kim Brown and TC Kirkham.
Hey guys, welcome to another week here at Front Row 5 and 10, brought to you by the people that bring you Subject Cinema. I'm Kim Brown.
I'm TC Kirkham, and you forgot the him and me part.
Oh yeah, well I was trying to be a little different
that's
today.
me. I'm TC, and her, she's Kim.
Yep.
And it's a wonderful snowy day in New England.
Wonderful snowy day is another way to say there's a freaking blizzard going on outside.
Did you ever hear of something called a blizzard box until today?
Blizzard bag.
Blizzard
and no.
bags. We were just watching all the school closings today, and there's these, along the bottom, you see, every now and then you'll see the words Blizzard Bag Day or Blizzard Bag 1 after it. These poor kids get a snow day, and they have to go to school online for at least 4 hours.
Yeah.
That's so wrong.
You know
we
what
ought to outlaw that right now before it gets out of control.
You know what I would say if I was a mom and my kid had, it's blizzard, I have a blizzard bag day today, I'd say, go the F outside and play in the snow. We'll work on the homework after dark.
Well, you have to do it at a certain time, then you're kind of screwed. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this week's show.
Nanny
As
state.
always, we count up our stuff. This was your week to do
Yes.
count-ups. If you'd like to give us a list idea, please take the time to jot down an email and shoot it to us at frontrow@pnrnetworks.com. If we use it on the air, you'll get credit on the website, credit on the show, and a small prize of some sort. I have tons of DVDs, promo DVDs and stuff laying around that I can shoot out and all kinds of stuff. So please get involved. We want you to be involved.
Definitely do.
What was your choice of list this week?
Well, I figured in honor of the fact that Sven Gulli, one of our favorite horror hosts, is doing an all Godzilla month on MeTV on Saturdays. Check your local listings. And you're welcome.
10 o'clock in most locations, 10 a.m. in Chicago, and 11 p.m. on the Boston MeTV outlet because they run news at 10.
And you're welcome for the plug, MeTV. I decided that since it was my turn to come up with our top 10 list for the week, that we would talk about, each of us do our list of our top 10 favorite giant monsters from the movies.
Do you know how difficult this was? She's the kaiju fanatic. I'm sitting here going like, ah! But I came up with a few, and I deliberately got silly on a few of them. So.
Well, I did give you an out. I was being generous. I didn't say it was a top 10 list of top 10 kaiju.
No, but that would have been easier because then I could have just gone through and picked things out.
Well, yeah, but I figured you don't know enough kaiju. That
I know more than you think I do.
All right, well,
anyway.
So I figured this would be giant
and
monsters.
Technically any giant monster is a kaiju.
Yes, well, yeah, that is true.
So there.
I figured any giant monster from any giant monster movie from all around the world would fit in this list. So
okay,
there's I can honestly say I have monsters from all over the place.
And probably the same monster in 4 different incarnations.
No, I don't. I actually don't, surprisingly enough. I was actually trying to be a grown-up about this, and, you know...
my heart! Clunk.
Your sarcasm...
Ooh, I'm getting the death eyes now.
Your sarcasm is duly noted.
Okay.
And ignored.
I know. It usually is.
All right, so
I'm sorry, what'd you say? My number 10 giant monster is actually monsters, because there's more than one of them. Mm-hmm. And they're not giant, but compared to what they normally look like, they're giants. Yeah. And they're still dangerous, because, well, they don't understand English or any other human language. They understand their own language. But they're still pretty dangerous, and they come from a movie that's actually one of the better of the schlocky giant bug movies out there. My number 10 is Giant Ants from the film Them, which is one of the better B-movie bug thrillers out there. It was the original, and it spawned a whole bunch of other craptastic films that we may or may not get to on Catastrophe Vortex. I'm not trying to stay away from the giant monster movies over there. But the Giant Ants... were made that way by what else? Radiation testing in the Nevada desert, and they were grew to giant proportions and can kill and dissolve humans with their
formic acid.
Formic acid. I want to say formaldehyde, and that's wrong. The formic acid, they can inject it, and it just eats the body up from inside out, and it's like, ooh, icky. It's a really great film. I mean, the effects are really well done for 1954, I think it is. And it's really fantastic, the storyline, because ants are among scientists believes ants are among the most intelligent creatures on the planet. If you ever want to test that theory, you can watch another film from the 70s called Phase 4. Kim doesn't like it, I do. That looks at the intelligence of ants as influenced by...
The ending sucked.
Well, yeah, but it's still a good movie. And it looks at intelligence of the ants as influenced by an alien cosmic ray. And it's really interesting. But here, they're just ants acting instinctually, doing what ants do, which is eating, killing, storing, doing all they do to serve their queen. And it makes it very, very effective. Number 10, the giant ants from Them. And they're not technically giant. They're only about 10 feet tall, but that's huge for an ant. Would you want to run into a 10-foot tall ant?
No, not really, no.
Like you wouldn't want to run into a 6-inch carrion crawler? I'm sorry. D&D joke.
Is that inches or feet? Ah! Yeah. That was that was a campaign that didn't turn out terribly well in the long run. My number 10 giant monster has only been in one film where they had a major role. They did have a cameo in another film, but, you know, it's a cameo, so it's a walk-on.
It's Zilla! Getting the death eyes again. Well, it was only in one major film and had a cameo in Final Wars.
Just for the record, Zilla, a.k.a. Roland Emmerich's Godzilla, a.k.a. Fraudzilla, a.k.a. Fluffy the Giant Iguana, is not on my list.
Oh, shucky darn.
No. The creature that is on my list because this was one of the weirdest concepts I ever heard, ever. And the actual final incarnation is actually really frightening looking. My number 10 is a creature called Biollante, who was featured in...
Oh, yes, the giant rose, right?
1989's Godzilla vs. Biollante, had a cameo in 1994's Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Biollante is the product of science gone extremely amok. The creature is a combination of rose DNA, human DNA, and Godzilla DNA.
Why would you want to do that?
Why
would you want to make that particular combination? You're trying to make a new perfume scent or something?
Well, no, no. Originally, the whole idea was that the scientist Dr. Shiragami is attempting to use Godzilla's cells, Now, this is back when Godzilla came back to Japan's consciousness in 1984, which came out here as Godzilla 1985. Dr. Shiragami's idea was to use Godzilla's cells in a way to genetically enhance certain plant species in a way of creating crops that would do better and not wither in harsh weather. He figured Godzilla's endurance, if they could figure out a way to harness Godzilla's endurance and put it into plants, you'd wind up with plants that would be very, hardy and you wouldn't have to worry about crop freezes and things like that.
Kind of like Godzilla combined with Jurassic Park and Little Shop of Horrors and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Is that where they're going with that?
Sort of.
I've never seen that one, by the way.
A lab explosion kills his daughter Erica, and Dr. Shigami splices her DNA with that of a rose, trying to make the rose an immortal being. He winds up splicing in Godzilla's DNA, and it winds up becoming this creature that is christened Biollante. And actually, when Biollante first exists, it's actually kind of beautiful in this weird kind of Kim finds strange stuff appealing way. There's actually something really kind of beautiful about it at first.
I'm sorry, it looks like a Justice League bad guy. I'm just seeing stills. I've never seen the film. I've only seen stills.
The thing is, it winds up calling out in a way to Godzilla because Godzilla is technically its parent, partially. I don't know. And Godzilla,
surrogate would probably be a better way to describe it.
When Godzilla and Biollante meet the first time, it doesn't end particularly well for Biollante. And the following mutation that occurs with the spores that are released through the first Biollante's destruction evolves into this other creature that is not strangely beautiful. It's this kind of more Godzilla. It's more Godzilla than Rose and human, but there's still Rose and human aspects to it. And it's actually got a lot of teeth. And it's very scary looking. But it's just such a weird concept and so unique and different. And like I said, the first incarnation, there is something about it that I find strangely beautiful. I know. I'm effed in the head. What do you want? So my number 10, Biollante.
It's just one of these weird things that you, latch onto.
I suppose.
My number 9, I don't like these things very well. I'm not very fond of them. But, over the years, there have been a lot of different types of this particular type of monster. And some of them have been really well done. And some of them have been really poorly done. And one of them happened to be really well done and really fall down funny. And it's what made the movie for me and made the character for me. Because, after all, again, we're talking about a character that has just grown to large size and is acting instinctually mostly, not so much as a true bad guy until you get to the end of the film. Mm-hmm. But it makes it worthwhile, and if you've never seen it, you should, because I will tell you in one phrase exactly why number 9 is great. It's a big-ass spider. From the movie Big Ass Spider, starring J.J. Abrams' best bud Greg Grunberg. Big Ass Spider is a takeoff on all these horror bug movies. Came out in 2012, I think, or 2011. We saw it at the Boston Underground Festival and just fell apart. We were in hysterics the whole movie.
When we weren't I'm not going to freak out. It's a spider. I'm not going to freak out.
I don't like spiders that well. And in this particular case, this is a big ass spider. It's like 3 stories tall, and you can't really get away from it. It's as I said though, it doesn't really know if it's evolving because it was a genetic experiment. So it is evolving and starting to think, and then it starts becoming more and more dangerous, more and more aggressive. But in the beginning, it's just acting instinctually, trying to get away from the military. Now, of course, military, and always played by bad guys here. Played wonderfully here by the always reliable Ray Wise. Lots of fun. And it's really well done. The CGI work on the film is impeccable. You can't, except for a couple that are deliberately done to look fakey, kind of like Beginning of the End, where they try to make it look like that. It's really fun. It's a fun movie. It's a great character. And I haven't seen any plans for a sequel, but it did pretty good on home video and got really great reviews from the critics. The critics absolutely loved it when it premiered at South by Southwest. So it's a favorite, and if you haven't seen it, I urge you to check it out. Number 9, Big Ass Spider from Big Ass Spider.
Okay. My number 8 is a character that I will admit I'm kind of shallow on this one. He's on the list strictly for his looks. Simply because I love his look. I've always kind of thought he was an odd choice for a monster for battle. Simply because he has a couple of advantages, but he also has a couple of disadvantages. The big disadvantage is he has no arms. The biggest advantage is he has 3 heads. My number 9 is King Ghidorah, or King Ghidorah, depending on which translation you listen to.
Well, that's like Gamera or Gamera, depending on which film you see, but I think Ghidorah is the correct pronunciation.
King Ghidorah has been around since the 60s, first appearing in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, which came out in 1964, as a creature that was from outer space and was responsible for the destruction of the civilization that was on Venus, which was a thriving civilization 5,000 years before the present time, which was 1964 when the movie came out. So obviously, this creature is really freaking old.
And we know this how?
They bring it up in the movie.
No, I mean, how do they figure this out, that there was a civilization on Venus? And I mean, have we been to Venus in that movie? I've never seen this all the way through. I've only seen bits and pieces. I'm just curious. I'm honestly curious as to where they came up with it.
It's 64, I'm sorry. It was explained in the movie.
Okay, all right.
He's appeared in most of the, several of the Godzilla films. Usually,
is where I've seen him. So
usually as a bad guy, usually as controlled by the evil aliens or the bad guy.
Generic evil aliens. Insert here.
He's the big bad that the evil aliens have under their control, and they stick him against Godzilla, because these are usually at the point. He's appeared in a lot of the films where Godzilla is the hero. Quote, quote.
In other words, a lot of the late 60s through mid-70s Godzillas.
Yeah. Although I still argue Godzilla's not a hero at that point. He's just protecting his turf.
I think that's an accurate statement, actually. It is more turf protection.
And I've always thought that King Ghidorah was one of the coolest looking monsters ever, because let's face it, it's a giant golden 3-headed dragon. I mean, come on! But
it has no arms.
But it has no arms. Instead of arms,
it uses its left and right heads for arms, pretty much.
Well, yeah, actually, in melee attacks, it uses them for biting and stuff like that, and holding and stuff. You're quite right. Instead of having arms, the person who's in the suit has to, stick their arms out in the wings that he uses to fly.
Right.
Although that's done by string. Usually. King Ghidorah is supposed to be in 2019's Godzilla King of the Monsters from Legendary. I don't know.
That's the American series that's currently endorsed by Toho.
Yeah. I don't know as what. I don't know if he's the main antagonist. I don't know if it's just a walk-on, or in a Giant Monsters case, a stomp-on. I don't know. But I can't wait. He's an integral part of the movie, and so is Mothra, from what I've heard. So we'll see what happens. So my number 9, all hail the king, baby, King Ghidorah.
You're going to say that about King Ghidorah? Elvis is going to be very upset with you.
I think the Evil Dead fans are going to be more upset with me.
My number 8 is, a desperation pick, because I honestly, the character's okay, sort of. He's a bit whiny at times. But, I think that there's something about the idea, even though it's totally implausible as to how this happened. It's not. No. I'm going to go further than that. It's downright freaking physically impossible for this to have ever happened. Completely, irreversibly impossible.
So it can't happen.
No. But if it didn't happen, you wouldn't get what sin could a man commit to bring this terrible thing upon himself, or something like that. My number 8, astronaut Glenn Manning. No, he's not an astronaut.
He's a
test pilot.
No, he's just a corporal.
I thought he was a pilot. Okay.
No.
From the
he goes to rescue a pilot.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't turn out very well.
No.
Colonel
Glenn Manning from The Amazing Colossal Man. He's a nice guy, a nice Joe. He's there to witness an atomic test.
Plutonium bomb, to be exact.
But it doesn't go off, and he goes in and rescues this private plane crashes where the bomb is supposed to be going off. The bomb goes off. He's ground zero, and all that's left is he's burned. I'm sorry. There would be nothing but dust left of him. This is not possible.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's fun to watch this guy descend into madness as he gets larger and larger and larger. I mean, that sounds really, sorry, really, really crass, but.
No, I mean, you're right. He's standing at literally within walking distance of where a plutonium bomb goes off. Bomb goes off. He gets burned, loses all of his hair except his eyebrows, and then begins
wrapped in seaweed, and his skin grows back overnight,
and then begins to grow larger and larger and larger.
Yeah, that seemed to be the whole thing. I don't see how why that became the central focus.
The radiation made things big.
I don't everything. Know. In the 50s. I don't understand. But
I don't know either.
Here, he's got this long-suffering girlfriend / fiancé that loves him, and his friends are trying to take care of him.
Of course she loves him. He's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, isn't he?
Yes, so big he has to wear a diaper, which he doesn't like.
Well, and I really thought I was going to get the family show for that one.
No, it says this isn't Subject Cinema.
Oh.
It's on the Subject Cinema feed, and it is a family show, but still.
He must have an enormous Schwanzstück.
Oh, stop! My number 8, Colonel Glenn Manning from The Amazing Colossal Man. Like I said, it was a desperation pick.
And if you can tell where that line came from, give yourself a cookie. My number 8, we are leaving the land of Japan.
Oh,
and
that's fine. I'm going to Japan next time.
Going off to another country on the other side of the world that I've also never been to, but I'd like to go someday, maybe. My number 8 are several of this species. And it's actually several different species that are part of the same species. Genus? I don't know how that works. I slept through biology. My number 8 are the trolls from Troll Hunter. Now, those of you who have not seen Troll Hunter, what?
Nothing. That's completely crazy. I did not expect you to have those.
Those of you who have not seen 2010's Troll Hunter are doing yourself a disservice. A Norwegian film about a government organization that is kept hush-hush, about a man who goes out and hunts trolls. Now, trolls in Norwegian fantasy are an integral part of their fantasy world. They are usually pictured as large, dumb creatures. In this film, they're pictured...
large what?
Dumb creatures.
Oh, dumb.
Dumb,
okay.
Not intelligent.
I thought you said gum. I'm like,
dumb,
large, dumb creatures? Okay.
No, easily tricked and such.
Yep.
In this film, they are pictured as much larger, much stupider, much smellier, and extremely, extremely dangerous. As the film goes on, we seem to be getting into... As the film continues, we get larger and larger versions of trolls. The deeper and deeper we get into the forests of Norway, we get trolls that have multiple heads. And at the end of the film, we are dealing with something called a Jotnar. Now, for those of you who don't know what a Jotnar is, pray you don't run into one. They are a type of mountain troll. And they can be anywhere between 50 and 100 meters tall. Picture that, why don't you? Something that big that likes to eat anything.
Yeah.
And guess what? You qualify as anything.
Yeah.
And I also have to rip off another line from another film. To quote Arnold Schwarzenegger's character in Predator, "These are some ugly mother beep." So my number 8, the trolls from Troll Hunter.
Wow. Okay. That's totally unexpected. Number 7 on my list is, well, he's an old friend, especially to Kim. But it's a newer version, a more sleeker, fairly accurate representation of the original, unlike the 1990s one. My number 7 is the 2014 legendary version of Godzilla, directed by Gareth Edwards. Godzilla here is very close to the Godzilla of old, the creature that is seen in so many different films in Japan over the years. And thankfully, no, they did not bring giant iguana into this one. He's mean, he's big, he's bad, he's got the spines, he's got the atomic breath, the right shape of the body, not a giant iguana. And again, not a giant iguana. And he really is, again though, you and I were talking about this, he is defending people, which you don't seem to like.
Well,
because he comes to the rescue of basically the world when these two giant creatures are suddenly reawakened from suspended animation and their existence threatens the entire planet.
Right.
Does that mean this qualifies as a disaster film? I suppose it is. San Francisco got wiped out, and so did Honolulu. Anyway,
and so did Japan all those years.
But we didn't see that part because it was set in San Francisco. So
I'll get to my defense of the Big G later, because you all, if you guys don't really think that he's on my list, you don't know me. This
character is well done, and I really enjoyed this film, and I loved. I mean, the one with Matthew Broderick is just terrible. And this one brought it back to that. It made it clear that Legendary was intent on bringing Toho's Godzilla to American films, and Toho's Godzilla is always going to be a formidable kaiju, the original one, and they did such a great job with the story and the casting and the effects and everything, and made him the badass that he's supposed to be. Although, again, I do kind of claim that there is some kind of sentience that knows when either humanity or Earth in general is in danger, and that's personified by what Ken Watanabe's character is always saying in the film, that he is there to balance nature. So, if you've never seen this version of Godzilla, you should check it out because it's excellent. Terrific performances from Aaron Taylor Johnson, Bryan Cranston, Elizabeth Olsen, Ken Watanabe, David Strathairn, and a whole bunch of other great people. The number 7 on my list, the 2014 legendary version of Godzilla.
Okay. Number 7 on my list is, we're back in Japan again. And
there's a shock.
He's a character that has appeared in several kaiju films. He did get his first film was his debut, and it was a solo film where he was the main, star, if you prefer. My number 7 is Rodan.
Now, I've never seen Rodan or any of its films, so I'm not familiar with the character that much at all. So tell me a little bit about it.
Okay. Rodan first came into being in the film of the same name, Rodan, which came out in 1956. Another film from Toho Studios. Rodan is a giant, what is called a Petranodon, I believe. If I came close to saying that correct, I hope I did. Which is a giant, which was a giant dinosaur-like, bird-like creature. This one is obviously much larger than the originals. And
not looking as goofy as the giant bird and the giant claw.
Well, no, nothing looks that stupid. The interesting thing about Rodan is that when the first film came out, the end of the film, which I won't give away, is incredibly tragic. And I know some people would be like, what the F are you talking about? This is a giant monster that's destroying cities and, it should be killed and all that. I don't feel that way, but
Well, you just gave it away.
Well, yeah, but there's more to it than just that.
All right.
And I think the ending of Rodan is especially tragic. I think it's tragic and beautiful myself. He has, and it is a him, I'm pretty sure. Rodan has appeared in several features since. Usually he is either, it's kind of funny because he's either the antagonist or he's kind of comic relief. They do tend to kind of make him almost like this kind of slapsticky kind of monster, because once again you've got a character that doesn't have arms. He doesn't have these giant wings and like small, dinosaur arms or anything like that. He's just got the wings.
Colin Mockery arms.
Which,
from Who's Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah, he doesn't have that. So it kind of limits the actor in the suit to what they're able to do when you actually have the character on the ground. But considering the fact that he can fly at like, supersonic speeds and create sonic booms with his wings and knock over buildings and stuff like that, he's not to be effed with.
So he's a lizard version of Concorde. Or a bird version of Concorde.
Yeah,
okay.
Kind of. So my number 7, Rodan.
Okay, my number 6 is also technically not giant, but he's big. And I particularly, really, because I never read the book when I tried and I just couldn't get into it, but I like the portrayal on the big screen, and it has a lot to do with the way that it was done in the movies and also with the voice acting. It's something special when you see the CGI and it just kind of lights up everything in the very end of the first film. My number 6 is Smaug from the Hobbit trilogy of films, as portrayed by Peter Jackson, and directed by Peter Jackson, and as portrayed by the vocal talents of our friend Mr. Cumberbund, Benedict Cumberbatch. Smaug is a giant golden dragon. Am I mistaken?
Well, he's a giant dragon. They made him golden in this.
Okay, because I thought there was a specific type of dragon that he was mentioned as being, but am I wrong?
I don't think so.
He's sentient. He speaks. He's very greedy, as he stole all of the gold owned by the dwarves, the family of dwarves. There, and as voiced by Mr. Cumberbatch, he is incredibly malevolent. He's not putting up with anything, and of course, Bilbo gets stuck dealing with him. In the first movie, we see him there. Just at the very tail end, and in the end of the,
we actually don't. We see him at the beginning too, but all we see is the shadow and the destruction.
But we see his face and his eye at the end of the first film, and then we see him completely throughout the back part of the second film and the early part of the third film. And he's a dangerous mofo. Yep. Don't put up with nothing. And I have to say that it makes him terrifying because he's even more intelligent than people give him credit for in the film. They say he's wily and he knows what he's doing, but this guy is pure evil and pure greed, all rolled into one, and it's all caused by the gold, or most of it. It's an interesting allegory for the way the greed is introduced into into society, don't you think?
It is, yeah.
Number 6, Smaug from The Hobbit.
Okay. My number 6 is actually some creatures that you've mentioned already. My number 6 are the giant ants from Them.
Oh, alrighty. I'm not alone in that yet. Yay.
No, I think that Them is actually one of the scarier giant bug films. It was actually the first giant bug film.
Did I get the year right?
It came out in 1954.
I was right, yes. Cool. Ha-ha!
It was the first of the whole 1950s nuclear stuff makes bugs and other things get big. Honest to blog, I don't know where they came up with this.
Scorpions, tarantulas, grasshoppers, wildebeests, the Tasmanian devils, rabbits, tigers, bears.
The thing that makes the ants in Them so frightening is the fact that when you think about it, ants are everywhere. Ants are on pretty much every continent with the exception of
Antarctica. Yeah.
And
they're probably there in like a colony or something. You never know. They might have like a scientific thing set up.
Ice ants or something. But
well, there's fire. There's fire
ants. And ants are friggin' smart little bastards. You know, they figured.
Now be nice. We don't want them to attack us.
Well, yeah, they're friggin' smart little buggers. They work together. They know how to. They've shown, you know, ants building bridges to get from place to place in the forest and stuff. Bridges made of ants. They'll link themselves together. They're very intelligent creatures, and the idea of an ant the size of a VW bus,
yeah,
that's not a good thing.
No, it's not.
Especially when you think about the fact that you take your average little ant, and your average little ant has these little, you know, pincer mandible things. Mm-hmm. And that's not going to hurt you because you're a big, strong, strapping human with opposable thumbs and think you know everything.
But one that big can crush you.
Yeah, let's get back to the whole ant the size of a VW bus. Now those little mandibles aren't so little anymore, and they can snap you in half like, you know, somebody just threw you into a combine. You know, besides the fact that there's the whole formic acid thing, and there's the whole fact that ants multiply very fast. Mm-hmm. This is not an enemy that we little upright monkeys are going to be able to deal with. You know, we strut around on this planet.
I have to correct you.
What?
Apes.
Upright apes.
We're not related to monkeys. We're related to apes.
You know, that we naked apes think that we're, you know, we strut around with our opposable thumbs.
You're not naked.
No.
Well, you're not.
You know, humans strut around with their opposable thumbs thinking they're all that in a bag of curly fries, but...
Well, we all know what happens when cats get opposable thumbs.
This is a really good movie, and there's one scene that I want to bring up that just... I think is one of the most disturbing scenes in science fiction films or science fiction horror films, where we see one of the ants leaving its colony long enough to dispose of a human rib cage. It takes the rib cage in its mandibles and tosses it into a waste place, a waste, you know, a little place that the ants have.
The ant version of a compost heap, basically. Yeah,
which is full of bones and skulls and things left over from its previous meal, i.e., us. Not a cheery thought.
No.
So my number 6, the ants from them. Think of that the next time you go on a picnic, and you might want to leave them a cupcake or two.
My number 5 is the only character on my list whose origin remains unknown to anybody who has seen it. It is, well, there are a number of different theories about the creature. Some people are have speculated over various things and various little tidbits found in the lore of the movie and the creature that it comes from, as to what it might actually be. Myself, I'm not exactly sure where it comes from. All I know is I don't want to be there when it gets here, because it's a damn scary monster, even if Kim doesn't think you see it enough. My number 5 is Clover from Cloverfield. This was the first giant monster movie I ever saw, original giant monster movie, on the big screen, I think. Maybe Final Wars came first. And I loved it.
Pretty sure
Kim hated it, Stacy hated it, Jen hated it. I loved it. I thought it was great. I still think it's a great film. And introduced me to a whole bunch of young actors that I continue to think are just great. Clover is maybe a little smaller, but not much than an average Godzilla character. And it's rampaging through New York City in the film. We don't know where Clover came from. There's all kinds of different speculation. We see a clip, well, there's several different clips that I mean, you have to look through all the viral stuff that was released by Paramount to see the various things. In one clip, you think you see something falling out of the sky behind Rob and what was the girl's name? The one that he went to save?
Elizabeth?
No, I can't remember.
Olivia?
I don't remember. That's not important. Rob and his girlfriend, and they're on a ride at Coney Island, and you think you see something fall in the sea behind them. Then there's also all this stuff about the Tigerudo company and their new drink called Slusho, and it apparently is getting an ingredient from deep within the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. And you wonder, well, did they wake something up? We still don't know what really happened, and now Cloverfield has been applied to as a generic term for horror films by J.J. Abrams' production company that are all kind of alien related. We don't find out what. 10 Cloverfield Lane had nothing to do with the original film, but it was, again, a critical hit. Clover's ugly, too. He's kind of flat-faced. We get a good close-up of him at the end of the film when he kills T.J. Miller's character. And it's like, okay, he's ugly. You don't like the look of him at all, what you see of him. He's not pretty in any way, and we find out, or assume, from the stuff online, that it's a child. Which means there's a mama Clover out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrifying? We still haven't heard any more about whether we're getting another one, although there is another Cloverfield sequel due out in December. I will be interested to see if they actually go back to the monster. I will go see it. Number 5, Clover from Cloverfield.
Okay. I have to, just in my own defense, I did see it again.
You liked it much better than when you saw it on DVD.
And I did. I did. I gave it another chance, and I went, okay, this is actually pretty all right. My number 5...
You were more annoyed by the people, anyway, not the monsters.
Yeah, I was,
You can't stand... I mean, they're not very likable.
No. And her name was Beth.
Beth, that's right.
My number 5 is a little bit of a different sort of a character on my list so far, in the fact that we actually know a little bit about her. She is a lady monster. My number 5 is Mothra. What?
I can't stand this character. I'm sorry. It's so dull compared to every other kaiju out there. Okay, go ahead.
Excuse me, a giant magical butterfly isn't... Well, giant magical moth.
It's not a butterfly, it's a moth.
Giant magical moth is not cool enough for you? I'm sorry.
I just don't like the original film. It's not the character. I don't like the original film. And I never have. So, anyway.
All right. Well, Mothra was introduced to the world in the film of her, with her name at the top, obviously, 1961's Mothra, where she hatches from an egg on an island called Infant Island after her 2 priestesses, which are these 2 teeny tiny little women that live on the island with the inhabitants of the island and worship Mothra as a protecting goddess figure. Her priestesses are kidnapped by this evil guy who wants to exploit them and treat them basically like freaks. Well, that doesn't sit very well with Mothra, who hatches from the egg as a giant caterpillar and makes her way to Tokyo and spins a cocoon, and out of the cocoon comes Mothra, the giant moth, who then flies to the other country to get her priestesses back, and she's not leaving without them. I just like Mothra. I was like, this is awesome. It's a lady monster. This is so cool. She has been featured in many other monster films. Usually she is viewed as she's one of the monsters, one of the rare monsters that is usually always viewed as a good monster.
Yeah.
Good, quote, quote. I mean, she does cause a lot of destruction, but no one seems to hold it against her. She's viewed as a spiritual being, as a mystical being, as a creature with a strong connection to Earth. And she also has a strong connection to people, as opposed to other monsters which don't seem to have an actual connection with humans. She does. And I like that about her. And she's pretty. Sorry. Sorry! I don't, can't help it. So my number 5, Mothra.
Okay, yay.
Fine.
Sorry, just me. My number 4 is, again, a creature that operates entirely on instinct. It's not evil in any shape or form. It's trying to survive. And it has spent thousands, perhaps millions of years frozen in the Arctic ice cap. and now that it's been released by heat flows, lava flows, and melting the ice it was in, and still alive, which doesn't make any sense, but it happens all the time with things that are trapped in amber. The prehistoric mantis from the film The Deadly Mantis is, about 60, 70 feet long. It's longer than a city bus, and it's pretty big, and it flies. It's got big, huge wings, and it obviously can cause the crashes of several airplanes in the film. The Deadly Mantis is my second favorite of all of the bug movies because it actually has some science and intelligence behind it.
Some.
Well, no. Mantises do attack their prey.
Oh, mantises are very aggressive. Yeah.
They've tried to make the mantis instinctual in a realistic way. And I like that. It's got a great cast that includes William Hopper and Alex Tilton and Talton and a number of other people. The thing I like about it is that it is portrayed as a realistic threat. They do finally have to trust everybody with the fact that it's out there. So America's on the lookout and other countries are on the lookout for this giant mantis flying around in case it should attack. It's a pretty powerful being, and when we see it finally taken care of inside the Lincoln Tunnel, it actually seems to be about the size of 3 city buses long and about 3 or 4 cars high.
And roars.
Which it wouldn't do. But although it might, because if you're growing something like that, the vocal cords are going to grow too.
I don't think mantises have vocal cords.
Though they have to have some means of making noise, though.
Maybe they rub their legs together like crickets.
I don't know. But I love the design. It looks just like a real mantis.
It does.
And they did a great job with it. And I would be terrified if I saw something like that flying around. Number 4, the prehistoric mantis from The Deadly Mantis.
See, I understand what you're saying about scientific stuff in that one, but my argument is still, okay, this mantis got flash frozen, fine. It could still be alive, okay. The second that the mantis got unfrozen and woke up in the Arctic, it would have maybe taken 2 steps forward and keeled over and died from the cold.
Not if its system was used to it.
I'm not buying it.
Well, the scientists say it's possible, so I don't know.
All right. My number 4 is going to cause an eye roll. I'm already ready for it. I don't care. Don't judge me. My number 4 was Toei Studios' answer to Toho, because they realized that Toho was making a lot of money with Godzilla, and they had latched onto something good. So they decided, the Daiei studio decided to follow this up in 1965 with Gamera, the giant monster. And
did you catch that? Was that big enough?
Yep.
Okay. Had to take my glasses off so you could see my eye roll.
My number 4 is Gamera. Now,
known in at least one print as Gamera. I'd love to know where they got that dub. That was on Wolfman Mac.
Yep.
I don't know where they got that one.
I don't either. Because that was the first time I had ever heard that one.
Yeah, me too.
And I had been watching Gamera movies since I was, 6 or 7.
You poor thing.
Shut up. Watching them on Creature Double Feature on Channel 56 on Saturday afternoons. I always was like, I remember being like, it's a turtle. You know what I mean? I was just like, it's a turtle that can fly and shoot fire? This.
And can tell the difference, apparently, between adults and children. Because Gamera is a friend to children everywhere. Especially if they have short pants on. Anyway. Just saying.
I know.
I can't stand this character either, if you can't tell.
Over the years, Gamera has actually become a more serious character.
Well, yeah, the revival tried to rival Godzilla in the way, in the tone and the feel, everything. The ones made in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't seen any of those, but I've heard they're very good.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them. I like them. I mean, they've Gamera, Guardian of the Universe, and all of these films. Gamera. The third of them was Gamera: The Awakening of Iris in 1999. And
they go back to the 90s. Okay, I thought they were only from the 2000s.
There was actually one in 2006 called Gamera the Brave, which I did not see. There has been talk of a new film in 2016, which will be another reboot. I don't know. I'd be happy with it. I think it would be great.
I'm surprised some Hollywood studio hasn't jumped on it so they can have their version of Gamera while Legendary's got their version of Godzilla out there.
I don't know. I don't know. I've just always, I guess maybe he's so high on my list simply because I remember him fondly from my childhood. I mean, other kids had, heroes like, Batman and Superman, and my heroes were Godzilla and Gamera and the Wolfman and stuff like that. So I was
one of these things is not like the others there.
The monster movies. That's where, other kids were watching Scooby-Doo and I was watching Dracula and Frankenstein and stuff like that, and I was the one always cheering for the monsters to win. So my number 4, Gamera.
Okay. My number 3, I'm completely flummoxed that it was on her list. My number 3, the Norwegian Trolls from Troll Hunter.
Really? Why are you so surprised?
Because I didn't think you'd remember those, because you're so kaiju-minded. Not, obviously, I've underestimated you. I apologize.
I am a woman of varied tastes.
You are. The trolls, as depicted in Troll Hunter, keep getting bigger and bigger and scarier and more frightening.
And uglier.
And by the time they get to the Jotnar at the end of the film, holy crap! That thing is huge.
Yeah.
And
that's a pants-sweating moment right there.
The thing is, I don't know what going on in Norwegian cinema lately, because The Wave was fantastic. Also, they made Troll Hunter on a $5 million budget. $5 million. I don't know how that's possible.
Is that with conversion?
That's American $5 million budget. I'm like, how in the hell can you make a movie this good and this stylish for $5 million and it takes America $50 million to get one little shot?
That's nuts.
Because Troll Hunter is one of the best films of the decade. If you've never seen it, you should. It's incredibly funny. It's a found footage film. It's a group of college kids trying to track down this troll hunter. They think he's a bear poacher at first. And it turns into one of the most fun, scary, hilarious movies you've ever seen. I mean, there are some parts of this movie that are fall down funny. And
they're just tiny caveat. If you are a person of faith, there might be a few lines.
There is some anti-Christian bias in the film in places, because the trolls apparently can smell Christians and especially enjoy eating them. But you have to understand that's always been a part of the troll mythos.
That has always been a part of their mythos, is that for some reason trolls find Christians to be very tasty.
The stuff in this film is terrific. And I mean, I can't believe what they did on that budget. It's just amazing.
Oh, I know.
My number 3, the Norwegian Trolls from Troll Hunter.
Especially when you find out one really important fact toward the end of the film, that these trolls have something even more interesting about them, which we won't give away.
Yeah.
But it was one of those say what now moments. Yeah,
that's a big pivotal point at the end.
Yeah.
I'm not giving it away.
Nope, me neither. Number 3 is a character that I will be honest, I had not seen this incarnation of him until we were lucky enough to see it on the big screen. I'd seen stills and highlights. I'd seen remakes and reboots. But I did not see him in his original classic form until we took a trek out to one of our favorite theaters, the Coolidge Corner Cinema in Brighton, which is a great theater.
Brookline.
What did I say?
Brighton.
I'm sorry. Brookline. Coolidge Corner in Brookline. Great theater. My number 3 is King Kong from the 1933 version.
My number 2 is King Kong from the 1933 version. You can go ahead and discuss it, and
Okay.
I'll discuss it too.
Not to say that the Peter Jackson version wasn't good. Sorry,
we both love
Chris.
Peter Jackson's. We both gave it our best film of the year, although I've looked back and wished I hadn't at this point. I wish I'd given it to Dogtown, but but yeah, we liked that one. But this one was marvelous.
And the less said about the Dino De Laurentiis version, the better. Yuck,
they should have never modernized it. That was the big problem.
Ugh, what a train wreck.
Yeah.
King Kong came out in 1933, and it shocked the world when it came out. They had never seen anything like it. Now, obviously, at this point, when this film came out, we didn't have the whole, thing that people fell back on in the 50s, that radiation makes things big.
Right.
We don't know why King Kong the giant gorilla is a giant gorilla. Other than the fact...
Nature.
Yeah, other than the fact that he lives on an island that is basically this place that time has passed by. That things are still... this island has dinosaurs on it. It has all kinds of strange, wondrous creatures on it. And it also has Kong himself. And there is just something so incredibly unbelievable about this character. Stop motion done by Willis O'Brien. And everybody knows the story. Kong is captured and brought to America, escapes and winds up falling off of the Empire State Building. And I know a lot of people are like, well, good. It's a rampaging monster and all that stuff like that.
It's not.
To people like that, I say F you.
It's not a rampaging monster. It's a frightened creature who's been taken away from its
This is a wild animal.
Normal habitat.
This is a wild animal that has been kidnapped from its home, put on display like some kind of freakish thing, and then you get surprised when it runs amok because it's scared and alone in a strange land with people shooting at it? And I realize that some people are going to be like, well, you're just some tree-hugging hippie, and fine, I'm a tree-hugging hippie, so what? But when Kong is shot dead at the end of the film, I cried. I cried because you feel for this beautiful, lost creature. Mm. I did. I really did.
You do, yes.
And a lot of that has to do with Willis O'Brien's work on the animation, especially on Kong's face.
It's top-notch. For stop-motion animation, it's top-notch.
And we know that Kong is coming back to the big screen this year in Kong Skull Island. We also know that he has apparently been eating his Wheaties because he is much...
He has to be big enough to fight Godzilla in 2020.
Yeah.
21.
He is much, much, much bigger in this film. Is bigger going to be better? I don't know. But I do know he is the king. My number 3, King Kong.
I love King Kong, the original, why he's number 2. The work on this film is a masterpiece. It makes Kong memorable with the facial expressions done by the animators who have move things little tiny bits at a time to get this stop motion effect. And it's really, really well done. The film is well made too, well thought out. Unlike the Dino De Laurentiis version, which was just really made the mistake of bringing it to the modern day, and it didn't work. This one and the 2005 Peter Jackson versions, which were both set in the 1930s. It was modern day when it was made, the original one. All the details that go into making Kong, including what we see about Kong in his natural habitat, help to establish that character and make him, endear him, and have made him an endearing character to everybody ever since. And that's what makes it work.
Yeah. The thing is, it's... like I said, though, when you think about what is done to this poor creature, it's not a surprise that it isn't even given the dignity of being put in a zoo where people can watch it be comfortable in a place that's supposed to be like its natural habitat. Mm-hmm. They have it chained to a thing on stage so people can sit there and gawk at it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's cruel. I don't care what decade you're from.
So that's why number 2, King Kong, is my number 2. I just think it's a really, really well done character, and you feel for the creature.
You do. You absolutely. If you have a heart in your chest, you do. My number 2 creature is actually one you've already brought up as well, and that would be Smaug from...
wow, I didn't know he'd be that high on your list. That's
from J.R.R. Tolkien's series of books, from The Hobbit and the series of movies that were made by Peter Jackson. He is a dragon that is called in the books is referred to as, this is directly from the books, a most specifically, a most specially greedy, strong, and wicked worm. Now, worm was also a word
W-Y-R-M. Right?
Actually, here it's spelled the usual way.
It is spelled the right way. Okay.
I don't know why this happened, but for some reason at one point, worm was also a word used, spelled either O-R-M or Y-R-M, to describe dragons. I don't know why.
I don't know why either. I always thought that was weird.
He invaded the dwarven kingdom of Erebor 150 years before the events that happen in the film, in the book The Hobbit and the film. He is a monster. You know, he's this enormous dragon, but he's the most dangerous type of dragon in the fact that he is so intelligent. It's bad enough when you've got a dragon that's basically a flamethrower with feet. It's even worse when you've got a dragon that can think, because they're very, 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 very smart. Smaug, who was given voice and motion by Benedict Cumberbatch in the Hobbit films.
Yeah, he actually did do the motion capture
Yes.
work as well, and the costume.
Is you know you are supposed to be afraid of him, and you are afraid of him, but he is also, there's almost something that you would almost believe him if he says, "I won't hurt you." If he said something like that, you'd almost believe him right until he ate you. When they did a cartoon of The Hobbit back in 1977, the style of the animation, his face had almost more of a feline look to it and feline eyes, and he was also red in that version. And in some of the drawings, he's also pictured as red. It depends on who does what with it.
Right.
I thought the way that he was done in the film was just magnificent. And
It was beautiful.
just gorgeous. And the fact that he was voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch caused some very conflicting feelings in certain parts of my body. We won't go there. My number 2, Smaug.
My number 1, I think, is pretty obvious, and I have a feeling it's her number 1 too. And I have there's just nothing quite like it. My number 1 giant monster, quite simply, Gojira from the original 1954 and later recut Godzilla King of the Monsters, as seen by Raymond Burr and Associates in the American film. Am I right?
My number 1 is actually 3 separate versions of Godzilla.
Okay, we'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay.
This particular one is the one I've always loved. I'm not the huge G fan that she is, but we watched Godzilla King of the Monsters again the other night when Sven ran it, Sven Gulli, and it holds up amazingly well, and it is amazingly well edited. You don't get these harsh splices. They were actually taking great care to cut Raymond Burr into the Japanese film and make it look realistic, and they did a great job. The character here is in its infancy, and it will evolve over the next 20 years as they redo the suits a little bit and make them a little bit more, do a tweak here and there. But it's frightening and beautiful at the same time, because Godzilla does not mean to be Godzilla. He's just doing what he would naturally, instinctively do here. This is well before he becomes a bad guy in any sense, and well before he becomes a hero in any sense, in any of the future films. He just is. As you said, and as Kim Watanabe says in the American version, he's a force of nature. And it makes it work.
I've always said that.
And I mean, the fact that this is shot in black and white makes it that much more terrifying, and it really adds to the mystique of the character. I'm going to shut up now, and let her go crazy, because this is her favorite film of all time, and I want her to have the spotlight. My number 1, 1954 version, original Toho of Godzilla.
Thank you. My number 1 obviously is Godzilla, but I wanted to be more specific, so I have 3 different versions of Godzilla that I put as my number 1. The version that we see in Gojira. Also on part of my number 1 is the Millennium Godzilla, or Godzilla Millennium series, depending on...
That's from the Godzilla 1999 forward, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also the legendary version of Godzilla.
Which is very close to the original, yeah.
Mm-hmm. When we first see Gojira, and, in the original film, he is a terrifying figure, which he is supposed to be. He is supposed to be he is nature's avatar. He is nature saying, all right, that's it. I have had it. You have effed up this planet long enough with your arrogance and your stupidity, and now you're effing with stuff that you don't understand, so you're going to get a spanking as a species. And this is how it's going to happen. He is brutal. He is terrifying. He's supposed to be. The problem, it's kind of odd when you say the problem is his success. It sounds kind of funny to put it that way. Because of the success of Gojira, they realized we have to make more movies. Oh crap, we killed him off. What do we do now? And so they were like, okay, fine, different Godzilla. All right, we're going to hand wave that and just go from here. And they kept making more films, which is great because it continued the character and there's more giant monsters and I'm happy. But the thing is, as they continued with the character, they wound up dumbing the character down because he was more appealing to children, and it physically changed the look of the character. He became softer. They
had to do that to give him to be able to do with the character what they did with him in later films, like the hopping on the tail and the flying with the breath.
Right. See, that's what I mean. They
jumping up and down.
They
and clapping
blunted the sharpness of the features. They widened his eyes, gave his eyes more of a mammalian rather than reptilian look, and it went on and on and on from there. And I'm not saying those are terrible films because they'll always have a special warm place in my heart.
Say a couple of them are on your guilty pleasures list.
They'll always have a very special warm place in my heart. But if you want to see Godzilla as a fierce force of nature, those are not the films to watch. The films that would pick that up again would be the Millennium series, which ran from 1999 to 2004. And the look of the character had changed again. It was much more back to the original frightening look of the character. And the thing is, at this point, Godzilla is considered by a lot of people a defender of humanity. That's crap. I don't buy it. Simply because Godzilla is not a defender of humanity at this point. In the series, Godzilla is a defender of Earth.
Yeah, I think I like that description better, too.
Being a defender of humanity and being a defender of the Earth are two entirely different things altogether.
Although I do think that the legendary version is tipped a little bit in the humanity direction. But the other ones are not.
It depends on the film.
Yeah, as I said, the legendary version has been tipped that way a little bit.
I mean,
even though they tried to balance it out with Ken Watanabe saying, "Oh, it's a force of nature," I do feel that they bent that a little bit toward the humanity thing.
No, I agree with you. I mean, if you look at a film like Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, that's
a hell of a title, isn't it?
That's the film where Godzilla is imbued with the souls of people who died during World War II. And that was more of an esoteric kind of a weird concept, I think. And he was all out to destroy Japan in that one because these souls were angry because they felt that their sacrifice was forgotten. But when you get more forward into the first film that we've seen so far, Godzilla, as done by Legendary Studios, that's also why he's on my list. And because the character looks legitimately like a friggin' badass. And he also...
they completely got it right this time, whereas the Roland Emmerich version got it completely wrong. And I mean, it's amazing.
And the things that I really
That's why I separated the two of them. But
the things that I really love about the Legendary version of the Legendary Studios version of Godzilla is if you take a very close look at the way the character has been imagined by their studios, his body is covered with scars and burns and deep gashes. This is a creature that has been around for a very long time and has been through a lot. Mm-hmm. And I liked the fact that you knew just by looking at him that he was this very ancient creature, but that for an ancient creature, age does not equal infirmity. You know, this is an old creature, but it's still an immensely powerful being. And I liked the way that Legendary did that.
Okay.
And I understand what you're saying about, like, there's a few films where he leans more toward humanity. And the Legendary version of Godzilla does.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is going to be the film series where we actually manage to, communicate with Godzilla.
It'll be interesting if it happens.
I don't know. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. We do know we're going to get Godzilla King of the Monsters. And
next year.
And we know at some point...
2019, sorry.
Yeah. We know at some point later on down the road, he's going to do battle with King Kong.
2021.
Pardon me, I have to go do the Snoopy Happy Days. I mean, I know...
It's got to be better than King Kong versus Godzilla, which was just horrible.
I mean, I know there's going to be a shite ton of collateral damage.
Yes, and why is it that Godzilla gets no crap about collateral damage in the Edwards version? Nobody, no critic, no anybody gives Godzilla crap about collateral damage in San Francisco, and yet they can't wait to jump all over Superman from Man of Steel and his collateral damage. I talk about, your total hypocrisy there. Honestly.
I think they feel like they can get away with that.
Pooh.
At the risk of playing devil's advocate.
They're wrong. Pooh.
At the risk, like I said, I think they feel they can get away with that because Superman is a person. Mm-hmm. He's a humanoid alien and has a brain and can reason and think. And
he's trying to protect humanity, and Godzilla not necessarily is. He's trying to protect nature.
As far as the critics are concerned, Godzilla is just a 50-foot tall dumb lizard. That's the arrogance of humanity. That's the arrogance of human beings. Mm-hmm. But my number one, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, Godzilla, specifically the Gojira, Millennium, and Legendary versions.
Recapping my top 10 were Giant Ants from them, Big Ass Spider from Big Ass Spider, Glenn Manning from the Amazing Colossal Man, the Legendary version of Godzilla, Smaug from The Hobbit, Clover from Cloverfield, the Prehistoric Mantis from The Deadly Mantis, the Trolls of Troll Hunter, King Kong from the original film, and Gojira from the original film.
Okay. And my list goes thusly, from 10 to 1. Number 10, Biollante. Number 9, King Ghidorah. Number 8, the Trolls of Troll Hunter. Number 7, Rodan. Number 6, the Ants from Them. Number 5, Mothra. Number 4, Gamera. Number 3, King Kong, the 1933 version. Number 2, Smaug. And number 1, Godzilla, the Gojira, Millennium, and Legendary versions specifically.
Alrighty. I want to get in a correction real quick here.
Yeah.
Because I went and looked it up. I said earlier when I was talking about the Trolls from Troll Hunter that they made this film for $5 million. I was wrong. They made it for $3.5 million. I'm like, holy cow. How do you have effects this good? I mean, it's probably because most of the film is found footage. They could spend most of the dollars on the special effects.
Right.
But $3.5 million?
That's
holy
bananas.
cripes.
That is bananas.
Wow. Okay, my turn next week, and I'm going to have some fun. Unless, of course, you want to send us your ideas. Your ideas will always take precedent over what we do, what we come up with. Mm-hmm. Please send us your idea for a list at frontrow@PNRNetworks.com, and we hope that you'll do it. And by the way, this is the longest episode we've ever done. We got long-winded. We got to get that down next week. I don't know if it'll be possible, though.
I start talking about giant monsters, I go to my happy place. I can't help it.
I know. So, I'm going to get to I'm going to kill two birds with one stone here, just to have some fun and piss some people off. If you haven't noticed, in the last week, as we're recording this, Peter Capaldi has announced he is leaving Doctor Who at the end of the current season. He has played the Doctor for 3 seasons now. And so speculation is running rampant as to who the next Doctor will be. Well, we're going to step in and see if we can find 10 people qualified that could possibly be great choices for the Doctor. Now, there are going to be a couple of caveats here.
Damn it.
I have decided that in order to play the Doctor this time, the BBC has decided to expand its horizons and choose an actor who was not born or from the United Kingdom. They are going to pick an actor from outside their own universe. You know, the same way Henry Cavill has played Superman, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, Tom Holland, Spider-Man. All these UK and Australian actors playing American heroes. So damn it, Americans and other countries are going to get their chance at the Doctor.
Technically, Superman is an American. He's Kryptonian.
You know what I mean. Don't be a smart aleck. So, next week, our top 10 choices for the next Doctor that is not a British actor or actress. If you want to include actresses, because they have made it possible now within the universe, personally, I'm probably going to stick with the guys. But I'm very interested. You can pick any age, any gender, any size, but they cannot be from Britain, Ireland, Wales, or Scotland. They can be from Australia. They can be from Canada, but they cannot be from any of the 4 major food groups in the UK.
We would like to bring up that the BBC is probably going to cast a British actor.
Oh, sure, or actress.
So this is just our speculation.
Personally, I'm on the Rupert Grint bandwagon. I want Rupert Grint to play the Doctor. I've been that way since Capaldi did it, so hopefully. But I'm going to come up, and I want you to think about this carefully. Think about who we would have, how they would play the Doctor, because each one has had its own distinct personality. You've got the irascible old guy that William Hartnell played. You had the cosmic hobo, Patrick Troughton. The dandy, Tom Baker, I don't know what you would call him.
Bohemian.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Then you got the college professor that was played by Peter Davison, and the kind of crazy person.
The dick.
I like Colin Baker's Doctor. Shush. Up through David Tennant and Matt Smith and all them. So you got a whole host of areas. What kind of personality would that particular actor play? They have to be other than the UK. So we should have lots of fun with this.
You're only doing this so I won't cast Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, I'm doing it because I think it's about freaking time that American actors have a chance to play characters from other universes that are never populated. Because all the British, even Spike Lee was complaining about the number of British actors playing iconic American roles a few years ago. And I'm like, I've been on this bandwagon for a while. The only reason I don't rag on Andrew Garfield is because he has dual citizenship. I like the way he plays Spider-Man, but he still got citizenship, both the U.S. and the UK. But Henry Cavill is British, and Tom Holland is Australian, and I think, or is he British? I don't know. And all these other people playing all these American superheroes. What the hell? I mean, they give us Ben Affleck and Ezra Miller, and all the rest of them are all like British. That's not fair. Or Israeli. Gal Gadot's Israeli. And technically Wonder Woman is not an American hero anyway. She's a Pacific Islander.
She's from Themyscira, which is...
Paradise Island. She's from Paradise Island. Let's just leave it at that. Anyway, it'll be fun to see you, I'm sure. And I intend to get really interesting with my choices. Okay?
Okay.
We got other shows we want you to check out as we go out through the week. Of course, Subject Cinema every Friday. Every Sunday. Subject Cinema out there Sunday evenings with reviews, news, commentary, all kinds of things going on in the world, awards coverage, festival coverage, and a lot more with us. Mm-hmm. And we're there every Sunday evening. On Tuesday, Digidex, the latest in DVD, Blu-ray, and home streaming, coming out that day. Catastrophe Vortex, my new show, Wednesdays, at usually in the evening, all about disaster movies and real life disasters too. I hope you'll join me there. Thursday is this show. Friday is 3-Minute Weekend with yours truly, running down all the latest films hitting theaters that weekend in the U.S. Saturday, Platinum Rose's Garden.
Yep. Platinum Rose's Garden is my Supernatural podcast where I talk about that week's episode of Supernatural, break it down, talk about what happened, what I liked, what I didn't like. This week I will be looking at this week's episode of Supernatural regarding Dean. I hope you will come check it out.
And, of course, on the weekends, Cavebabble with Eric and Valerie Lyon, usually up on Sundays from their unique Missouri perspective, movies, games, TV, odd things to eat, and more. You can get to most of the shows that we do at eCinemaOne.com, or that's for this show, Subject Cinema, and our 2 mini shows. For Platinum Rose's Garden, head over to PlatinumRosesGarden.com. Catastrophe Vortex is at CatastropheVortex.com, and Cavebabble at Cavebabble.com. And while we're at it, if you like these shows and a whole bunch more, visit our websites. We have a lot of great stuff going up. I got to post this week. I just posted, in addition to the podcast, we posted Theo Taplitz's newest short film yesterday. Theo was our #1 rising star last year, of course, the star of Little Men and the winner of several PNR awards. And really, really great stuff from him. We have all kinds of great stuff over there too, and we hope you'll check out our websites and become a Patreon supporter. We are really desperately trying to raise some money so we can upgrade our equipment. We need a lot of new equipment, and our stuff is almost 10 years old. Well, most of it is over 10 years old. But we need a new mixer, we need a new computer, we need a few new other accoutrements to go with it. And we have other projects we're trying to work on, including a video show that we're hoping to launch sometime this year. But we can't do it without your support. And it's not much. It's just $2 a month to start. You can go all the way up to $100 a month and give us all kinds of help there. And remember, the more generous you can afford to be, the more we will be able to do with it. Yep. And it's all for you. We're not out here for saying, feed us this so we can do all this stuff. Go off on a vacation to Hawaii or something. No, if we go anywhere with the money, it'll be the film festivals to bring you the greatest coverage we can. That's what we're about, making sure we can bring you the best we can give you. And the more generous you can be, the better chance we'll have of being able to really do that for you. So go over to patreon.com/PNRNetworks and donate today, or go to any of our websites and click on the giant orange Patreon button and it'll take you to the same place.
Okay.
Any more?
I think that's it.
I think we're out of here.
So we hope that you guys enjoyed this episode of Front Row 5 and 10.
Long ass as it was.
Yep, I'm Kim Brown.
I'm T.C. Kirkham.
And we hope we can count on you next week to come back and help us count them up.
See you then.
Bye.
You've been listening to Front Row 5 and 10 with Kim Brown and T.C. Kirkham.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.